President-elect Joe Biden's son, Hunter, disclosed yesterday that federal officials in the state of Delaware are investigating his taxes. In a statement, Hunter Biden said, in part, "I take this matter very seriously, but I'm confident that a professional and objective review of these matters will demonstrate that I handled my affairs legally and appropriately, including with the benefit of professional tax advisors." During the presidential campaign, President Trump and his allies alleged without evidence that Hunter used his father's influence to make international business deals. Hunter Biden has denied any wrongdoing there. Yesterday, President-elect Biden's transition team released its own statement on Hunter, which reads, "President-elect Biden is deeply proud of his son, who's fought through difficult challenges, including the vicious personal attacks of recent months, only to emerge stronger." End quote. The U.S. Attorney for Delaware's office declined to comment to NBC News about the ongoing investigation. Jonathan Lemire, you're down in Wilmington covering the transition right now. So this is separate from the alleged laptop gate that we heard so much about in the weeks leading up to election, a story that disappeared curiously right after the election. So what are we talking about exactly here?
That's right, Willie. Now, first, we should be clear. There's a lot about this we don't know yet, and we learned of it yesterday as Hunter Biden put out that statement via the transition, acknowledging that he was under a tax investigation. Associated Press, my colleagues and I are reporting that some of that is a look into some of his dealings, business dealings with China, but it's not clear what entities or transactions are being scrutinized right now by investigators. But we've also learned by people close to, familiar with the matter, that indeed this is not believed linked to that laptop that President Trump and his allies say, contained all this damaging information about Hunter Biden. That does not appear to be part of this, and it does not appear to be part of some of the attacks that Trump and his allies were dealing day after day during the campaign. It is, of course, though, a distraction, and one that this transition doesn't want. That this is, President-elect Biden has had an aggressive schedule this week in Wilmington, rolling out new cabinet members. Yesterday, he introduced his new Secretary of Defense, retired General Lloyd Austin. More personnel announcements are expected later this week. We do anticipate also his choice for Attorney General will be named in the coming days. And that is indeed what some Republicans have seized upon here. This idea of how can President-elect Biden nominate an attorney general who will be the boss of these federal prosecutors who are investigating Biden's son. In fact, a couple of Republican congressmen already said yesterday that the current attorney general, William Barr, should appoint some sort of special prosecutor or special counsel to look into the matter, to sort of preserve that independence. It's not clear if any of that will happen. It's not clear that there's really any there just yet. But this is something certainly some Biden advisors have long been nervous about, that Hunter Biden, of course, has had struggles in his life. He's spoken openly and powerfully about them. And there's been some concerns that something like this could happen. But Joe Biden's made clear he is fiercely proud of his son, defensive of his son. He has said that his people on his team have suggested that this will try not to be a distraction as he goes forward with the business of putting together his government.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.